it begs the question, why are women single? It's a very great question. It's a pertinent question. It's an important one that I think, from my perspective, I can give a pretty good reason as to why many women are single. So let me begin by saying many of this is told to me by single women. So a lot of the women that I speak to are educated, right? Uh, for the most part, dress well. Um, they have all the attributes and descriptions that on paper you would think this is a good candidate for any man, right? So then the question becomes, so then what is the issue? What is out there that they can't find? And mind you, I am in a metropolis, right? I am in a city where there is a lot of capital, a lot of access to people that are educated as well. It's not like I'm talking about a small town. And so you think to yourself, well, what is the issue? What is stopping them from finding the man of their quote unquote dreams? And I think the problem is to start here is, first off, their expectation does not meet reality. That is the biggest thing, right? They're looking for XYZ, and it seems like they cannot find that in a person, right? That becomes many of the reasons what I hear from a lot of the women that I've spoken to about this topic. So that is the big thing, is that they're not finding what they're looking for. Put simply, okay. The other thing is, and this might seem a little bit more of a controversial take, quote unquote, right? Which is that what women aren't as pretty as that they actually think they are, right? Or they're prettier than they actually are in their minds. So the problem is that no one's ever told them the truth. No one's ever told them that the reality is you're just not that cute. And men typically will look for someone not because of their accolades or the degrees or the profession, although that does matter. But I think the physical part is so important. I see so many women that are built like running backs, shoulders and double chins and looking like sumo wrestlers. And it's just scary, and it's like, what about these women is feminine? And that becomes the other issue as well, is, are you refined? Are you classy? How do you move about language, right? Are you saying a lot of curse words? Are you annoying? These are things that I think a lot of women can focus on and work on, right? And lose some weight. The other question becomes, is there just not enough good men out there? Is that an issue? And perhaps the quality just isn't there. I have to kind of agree with women on this one. I do run into a lot of men that I'm like severely disappointed in, and it's really not that hard. You get a job, dress well, um, focus on developing your intellect, and prioritize obviously your beauty, and become interesting, and you'll see how many things will happen for you. So that is something that I am definitely in agreement with, which is that there's just not a lot of good quality men out there. And so what that means, if anything, is that there is hope, right? Because the reality is, like, there is the for the guys that do get their stuff together, there's hope for those guys. Those guys will stand out. Those guys will be beneficiaries of all these single women that are looking for someone and hoping to find someone for a long-term relationship. The other thing is, what else? This is the other issue with a lot of the women that I speak to, right? So this is their qualms with a lot of guys. They say, "Oh, he's not what I'm looking for. He's too sensitive, or he's very feminine." So there's a lot of guys that are kind of confused as to how they're supposed to behave, and so a lot of these girls end up attracting a lot of these guys that aren't necessarily what they're looking for. The other thing is that a lot of women confuse, they mistake the fact that, like, a guy will sleep with you. So that doesn't mean just because a hot guy or many hot guys sleep with you does not mean that those guys would be in a relationship with you. So what you can take home short term is not what you can keep at home for the long term. And I think that disconnect is what's lending to this problem as well. Going back to how women think they're actually prettier than they actually are. I've had to tell a lot of my female friends that the reality is you're not as pretty as you think you are. And who am I to say that, right? Who am I? But anyhow, the other thing is too, I'll give you the other example. So there's plenty of average women that think they're above average, or they think they're prettier than they actually are. And for those, there's another route that you can take. You don't have to double down on being grumpy and mean. I have an example of a coworker. She's Not the prettiest person at all, but she dresses very well. She is very eloquent, and she's very nice. And that goes a long way. So even if a girl is not that pretty, that does make a big difference. I think if more girls leaned into that rather than being a mean girl, being obnoxious, being stuck up, when in fact you don't have any reason to be so, I think that part, I think if women more leaned towards that, there would be a lot more less single women, right? Because those women would be able to attract somebody. Because I'm thinking to myself, well, not for me, but for someone else, that's a good candidate, right? That's very important. And the other thing is too, let's say for example, the best case scenario, I do have some friends that are extremely attractive, beautiful, they speak well, they speak multiple languages, they dress well, they travel, they're well read, they're all the things that you would look for, right? And there's only one of me. So it's like, what am I going to have, a harem? So the thing is, like, I can understand their frustration as well. They run into they run unfortunately they run into, either they're going to run into, it seems like two types, right? The F boys that are just out here playing around, which is, unfortunately, there's a reason why they are in the position they're in, right? A lot of girls want them. So there's those guys. And then there's maybe the other guys that they're too cute, they love bomb, and then they don't like those guys either because they're just, it's too mushy, right? Even though they want that, they don't want it from that type of guy. They don't want a needy guy. So that becomes the other issue. But I do I do have many concerns for these girls because the reality is, for a lot of these friends of mine that are entering their mid 30s, right? They've graduated college, they've stacked their career, right? And they're still on the market for a guy. My concern becomes their ability to procreate. Right? Obviously, you have to find someone first. I would hope, get married and then have children. I wish that for everyone. And the thing is that if these girls can't even find a candidate, it's going to be a lot harder for them to have children. So that is my biggest concern. If anything, I'm just hoping to find a way to make them happy. I think it's just better for everyone, and especially because, like I said, I really do hope that they find what they're looking for. Because a lot of these friends, they're good girls, they're good women, they're very nice people, they're from good families. They would be good wives, I think, in my opinion. And it's just a little bit sad to see that they, you know, year after year, summer after summer, they're still doing the solo thing, and it's like deep down, it's like, yeah, how long is this gonna last for? You know? And so that is it. It's just something to lay out there. So for a woman, if you're wondering why you're single, so think about it, right? Have some real self-analysis and really ask yourself, are you kind? Are you sweet? Are you caring? Are you understanding? Are you open? Do you dress well? Do you speak well? These are very simple things that you can really just adjust and implement tomorrow, tonight even. Okay, there are some very practical tools. I don't know how many women actually watch my stuff or are even on YouTube looking for this type of material, especially from a guy. But I'm telling you from the perspective of mine, right, where I've dealt with and dabbled with many types of women, mostly educated women, right, because my bar is pretty high in that regard. I do try to weed girls out, which isn't that hard, right? In a city, to find a woman with at least a BA is quite easy. But I put a lot of stock in it because it just tells me that they're responsible. They have careers. They have ideas of, economic stability in their future. So if you are one of those women, just focus on those, right? And then if then it's still difficult, then like I said, we're gonna blame it on the supply. There's the demand is there, but the supply is just not there. And maybe that's where I'll have a conversation with the dudes about something like that. But anyhow, I wish you well, and I'll see you in the next one.